Welcome to the Life's Best Medicine podcast, where we are finding hope and healing one episode at a time. No appointment needed, no rubber gloves, and no coping. Just a healthy dose of life lessons to help equip you for this wild journey we call life. Hey everyone, it's June already. 6 months till Christmas. I'm warning you now so you don't let it sneak up on you again. But this is the time for travel, for having fun. So make Simply Snacking a part of your plans. You know, they have 10 great flavors, beef and chicken with tons of different things. Cherries, you can have with cherries if you want, or teriyaki or pineapple or whatever. I stick with the plain stuff because I have to watch my carbs. But for those of you who don't have to watch your carbs as much, there's a lot of great options for you out there. And I want to really thank them for sponsoring this podcast because I get to interview a lot of my heroes this month. So I have an unbelievable lineup coming up, and you're going to hear one of them today. And so June and July are going to be a lot of fun. So, thank you, Simply Snacking, for keeping us going. And so everyone eat their stuff, go and buy their stuff. Let them reap the benefits of hosting this podcast. So thank you all for joining me, and enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome back to the Life's Best Medicine podcast. Today I have an old friend, one of my heroes in the field. She brings sanity to all the craziness of diet and nutrition and all that kind of stuff. Amy Berger, welcome to It Nutrition.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me.
So for people who don't know, you've written like books on every topic, and it's awesome because I love it that you attack it from all different angles. You look at, we have the Alzheimer's anecdote, right? The stall slayer, and that's like really important, so because people get so frustrated when we're sitting there plateaued, myself included. And your carb confusion, like saying, why do we have to make it so complicated? So welcome, it's good to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
What's new with you?
Not a whole lot. I am working on a fourth book, and that's actually going to be about thyroid, which is not really a keto book at all. A keto might come up a little bit in it, but it's really just about thyroid. And I'm teaming up with a nurse practitioner to write it, so it's gonna be a while longer before it's out. But I'm really I wish it was out yesterday because I get questions about thyroid like multiple times a week, and I just want to be able to say, everything you need to know is here. And until the book is out, I kind of have to write a long, detailed email answer.
Yeah, I know. And you schooled me on this too, because I've had patients with struggles, and we go, oh, check this and that, and the TSH, that's all you need. That's endocrinologists have told me that my entire career, and then I started looking and saying, oh my gosh, and then we tweak it a little bit, and they feel great, and they're happy, and life gets better. It is really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, thyroid, and just everybody watching, I'm not a doctor, but thyroid, if you think the conventional approach to treating type 2 diabetes is backward and arcane and like illogical, thyroid is just as bad, if not worse. I mean, it could give diabetes a run for its money. And like testing the TSH. Now, if somebody feels fine, then you don't need to test at all. They feel fine. But if somebody has multiple signs and symptoms of low thyroid, very often the TSH is not enough. And I can compare it to like, how many times do people get their A1C measured or their fasting glucose, and the doctor says, oh, you're fine, it's normal. But maybe their fasting insulin is 35, and they have all these unexplained health problems because nobody's digging a little bit deeper. We see the same with thyroid. I see it all like beyond all the time that the TSH is normal, but then how come this person has 10 out of 12 thyroid symptoms, and if the doctor would dig a little bit deeper, we would see it in all the other, the other tests.
Yeah, that's a hard thing because nowadays the doctor has 8 minutes with the patient, and they're trying to deal with all these other medical problems, and they're just kind of saying, oh, here's a pill, here's a pill, here's a pill, we'll see you next time. And It's so hard because when you're having all the symptoms, and I've had people, they go, look, your thyroid's normal, don't worry. But when you look and their active thyroid hormones totally off, and just trying to figure out how to tweak that. Plus the effects of stress. I'm sure in your research you're looking at how stress affects the thyroid and active thyroid hormone and all that cortisol and stress hormones.
It's a minefield. I mean, there's a lot. It's funny to me because doctors are so hesitant to prescribe T3, especially T4 synthroid levothyroxine. That's the standard medicine, but that doesn't help a lot of people. And doctors are so hesitant to prescribe something with T3 because, there's some potential adverse effects, but other medications are prescribed like candy that have far worse effects, whether we're taught, maybe I don't want to get into the statin minefield, but even some of the diabetes drugs that have really terrible side effects, and doctors don't think twice about writing a script for that. And yet, so there's a danger in giving somebody a medication that has some potential side effects, but there's an even bigger danger in not giving them something that could really help. I mean, I see this, I get so worked up about it because I've been through this myself. That's why I'm so passionate about it. People lose so much quality of life. You can look at somebody and they're alive, they're upright and moving, but they feel terrible. The depression, the apathy, the sense of just why bother? It's loss of libido. Like, how many relationships have ended because somebody had untreated, undiagnosed hypothyroidism? So it's just,
Yeah, and depression and suicide and drug use and all this stuff, because people are feeling terrible. They're trying to make themselves feel better. And, no one really looks into that area. I mean, so many times, especially when people are gaining weight, almost everyone says, I think it's my thyroid. I say, oh, no, it's not your thyroid. Your TSH is normal, right? And then we now realize there's a lot more to it than just the TSH.
Yeah. I mean, I want to be clear, not I am biased towards seeing thyroid problem. Like, not everyone who's overweight or struggling does have a thyroid problem, but I think I see more of it than the average person out there, because if I sort of specialize in helping people with low carb and keto, and like it or not, a lot of that is weight loss, even though people do keto for so many other reasons. If somebody's doing low carb or keto and they're getting good results, they're not going to contact me for help because they don't need help. Like, everything's working fine. I have a biased population sample in that the people that are going to come to me for help are not getting good results. So, well, I'm following the diet, I'm doing everything right, why isn't this working? So I see a lot more hormonal stuff than I, because that's, if people don't have any issues, they're not going to come to me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are just migrating, trying to say, okay, what if something's not working? If we're doing low carb and keto and they're sticking to it, and I can see their continuous glucose monitor and they're stuck. You've been the expert looking at the doing the stall slayer book, which is great, and things like that where we have to start looking at different aspects, and I raised the issue of the gut microbiome recently, and I've seen a lot of data that's really shocking and how people's mental functioning and satiety and all those things, get messed up when your gut's messed up too, and how stress and hormones and all that, they all kind of impact each other. So it's, it's hard to, sometimes we have to change our tact and try to figure out the root cause of what's happening.
Yeah. And I'm going to be a little contrarian, but maybe not contrarian, but the carnivore movement is so popular now. And I think, I think you agree, based on what I know from you all these years, people need to do what's best for them. Like, whatever some guru is saying, or you need to do this, you kind of need to experiment, because what works really well for you might be different than from somebody else. And I know the carnivore diet is dynamite for so many people. And because you were talking about the gut biome, I think I feel better with more vegetables in my diet. And I don't know if it's, I have depression, and I wonder, I'm only guessing, but it could be a serotonin thing in the gut. Like, if I eat more vegetables, more fiber, maybe that's doing something beneficial for me individually, gut wise, that's talking to the brain or something. But I totally respect that other people do better with no vegetables. And I think there's people that do better with a fair amount of them.
Yeah, and I think it really comes down to self-experimentation, right? When you kind of say, okay, let me try taking vegetables out. Let me add dairy in. Let me take dairy out. And you kind of see where you feel well and where you don't. But it's so hard to do because our diets are so varied, and we go out to dinner and we have different stuff than we normally do. So sometimes it's hard to really focus in on what makes you feel terrible and what makes you feel well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the depression stuff because I know you've had struggles. My family, it's my family background also. What have you noticed from a dietary perspective that we can do to help depression?
Well, I think that a lot of my depression is thyroid related. So sometimes I have to like modulate my thyroid medicine dose a little higher, a little lower, and that has a huge impact on me. But I've I've always been like nobody would ever accuse me of being like a happy-go-lucky, optimistic, bubbly person. It's I've always been kind of melancholy and quiet, but the depression is a whole order of magnitude different. And all I can, I mean, keto obviously, unfortunately, hasn't fixed that for me. But I can only guess how much worse might it be if I was on the blood sugar roller coaster all day. If I was like, at least one thing I never had with my thyroid, thank goodness, is the physical fatigue. So at least I always have enough energy to kind of get through my day. And I, I can only speculate. I don't know how much worse the depression would be if I was eating a really terrible diet. Um,
Yeah, I think we see that, and that's the thing that's been surprising is we started low carb for diabetes management and obesity, and then all of a sudden people's moods better. Before they lost a lot of weight, I was like, why is that? And it was really weird. I was like, this is really weird. My patients are happy. They come in, you can see a difference in their eyes and their complexion and how they view the world. And I've had this, and I didn't know whether it's in a you're taking out some of the bad stuff that's causing the problem, or you're just putting in more good nutrition maybe that the brain needs. It is really interesting though.
I think it is, and I think it's both. I think it's probably you're taking out some of the stuff that's not so great and adding some of, like, you look at a steak, you're getting B vitamins, you're getting selenium, iron, all this good stuff. But I you bring up a really good point, like keto or low carb, paleo, whatever people are doing does have an amazing effect on mood and mental health for a lot of people. Like there's a lot of people who go keto and their depression is gone. I only wish that happened for me. Or, maybe they felt kind of better on keto, but then they went carnivore and really things kind of changed for the better. So I want people to know that that's possible. But it's not a slam dunk. But I think, I follow like Dr. Chris Palmer from Harvard and Georgia E, the psychiatrists. I think that the fact that like I wish it worked for everybody, but it doesn't. But the fact that it does work for so many people is incredible, that you could just change your diet and a lifelong anxiety, depression, bipolar, whatever could be gone. That's incredible, you
Yeah,
know?
and even alcohol for some people that causes depression to get worse, and they're not sleeping well, and then you get into the spiral of not sleeping well, and you get more stressed. You get more stressed, you can't sleep, and then that's a big trouble for a lot of people too. How
Yeah.
just knocking out these pillars of lifestyle maybe will help. Exercise, for instance, increasing serotonin levels and your dopamine response, and you know feeling better. A lot of people just don't realize it. And I think we've all been through that where you go for a weekend or you go out of town and you eat terrible for a few days and they say, I feel terrible. I just don't feel good. My mood. And you think people are like this all the time because they don't realize they're eating garbage. They're fueling their body wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people just get used to it, like, oh, this is just how I am. Or because so many people have that, it's sort of normal to be taking aspirin every day and antacids every day and all the, pain relievers. And it's like, that's not normal, just because it's common. Oh, and like all, you get to a certain age and the whole conversation is your medicine. And I have the gastroenterologist on Tuesday and the cardiologist on Thursday and this doctor on Friday. I mean, I saw that with my parents. Like, there's more to life than that, I mean, and I'm not saying like sometimes stuff still happens. You could be following a great diet, do all the lifestyle stuff, and you still get sick. I'm not saying like, I feel like in keto, there's a lot of blame the victim kind of stuff. Like, oh, well, what did you do wrong? You're not ketoing hard enough. You should do carnivore. Like, stuff still happens sometimes medically. And, but so I don't want to make it sound like it's all diet and lifestyle, but it is kind of crazy that we get to a point where nobody, like, I don't know how it is in your practice, but if you're a certain age and you go to a doctor, it's more shocking for you to be on no prescription meds than it is for you to be on 6 or 8 drugs, right?
Yeah, I'm always surprised when people come to me and they're not on any medication. They're in their 50s or 60s or 70s, and it is amazing. But a lot of the patients who are coming to me are the ones who are saying, look, I'm not just going to take a pill all the time. I want to figure out what the problem is. And
Yeah.
so, I've selected for that population, I think, and they've selected me. But yeah, it is true though, but how people are just want a medication or they want to be instantly cured right now. And you don't realize this metabolic disease, diabetes took so long. And like you were saying, one size doesn't fit for everyone, but also sometimes you have to change what you're doing. It may work for you now, but in 6 months, it's not working anymore when you start getting metabolic changes, from eating healthier sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people get in kind of it's not a rut, but something was working so well for so long that, like, you just, when it stops working, you just kind of want to stay there because, well, this was working so well, but okay, you're at a different point now. Things are different. Your body's different. Your life is different. Yeah, I think but it's human nature to not want to change, right? Especially when something was working so well, you're kind of scared to abandon that. I totally get that.
And like with Stall Slayer, what do you think are some like low hanging fruit that would help people that are kind of stuck? They lost 20 pounds, now they're stuck there for the next 4 months or 6 months.
Oh, super easy. There's two, like, not even low hanging, they're like on the ground, they're not even hanging from anywhere. The one is, and I get this from my co-author Eric Westman, count total carbs rather than net carbs, because net carbs works for a lot of people if you're subtracting the fiber and subtracting the sugar alcohols. But for a lot of people, that's not, and maybe it worked for you the first couple of months and now not so much. There's all this stuff on the market now that didn't exist when I was brand new to eating all these keto ice cream and the keto granola. They have keto cereal now. And if you're counting net carbs, maybe it's 2 or 3 grams per serving. But if you count total, it's 18 or 25, depending on the product. So that's a quick one. I mean, some people just don't realize how much carbohydrate they're eating. And some of us really have to be strict to get all the big benefits of keto. And then the second biggest thing that we see getting in the way of the weight loss is just too much fat. And I know that's like heresy because, oh, high fat macro. I don't want to make anyone afraid of fat, but just because, like getting your carbs really low is step one. And then if it's still not working, you might be overdoing the heavy cream, the nuts, the cheese, all these very concentrated fats. And it's not that, I mean, those things are allowed, but they're so easy to overdo. You sit there with that bag of almonds from Trader Joe's in front of the TV and forget it. Like before
Yeah,
you
you can
know it,
bring
the
in a
bag is
lot.
gone.
Yeah, you can bring in a
So
lot of calories and a lot of carbs too. People don't realize that that adds up. Or you have low carb cookies and low carb cake, and so you kind of have these disorders that you kind of you never change really because you all just make it all low carb. Just like they before they made it all low fat, they said, oh, Entenmann's cakes and all this stuff's low fat, so you can eat as much as you want. And we all got fat doing that.
yeah, I mean, I sometimes have to remind myself when I'm at the store looking at some of these products, I have to be like, no, Amy, you can't, just if I would have polished off a whole tray of cookies, I'm going to polish off the whole tray of keto cookies. I'm going to eat the whole pint of keto ice cream. So it's just easier for me to have none than it is to say, I'll just have a little piece, because it's never a little piece. Or that deathly phrase that we've all said, this time will be different. This time I won't finish the whole bag. Yeah, spoiler alert, you will. It's never different.
Do you find that when your depression is rearing its head that your cravings and you eat more and like to get yourself to feel better?
No, that's a good question. I probably tend to eat less because I just like really down in the dumps. I mean, I'll eat meals, but it doesn't really
Nothing
cause
sounds
carb
good. You're
cravings.
like, not motivated, not excited. Yeah, because some people it's
Yeah.
one extreme or the other, and some people when they're depressed they start eating a lot. Like, one of the things Tro and I notice is that when there's a lot of family conflict and stress in the house, like stress eating goes up like crazy generally.
Yeah, it's people go either they either stop eating or they eat more. I will say when my sleep is bad, when I'm really tired, I crave carbs. Like I'm hungrier overall, like I'm a bottomless pit. But not only that, I want carbs, which I don't usually crave carbs that, once in a while, but when I'm sleepy, forget it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I remember when I was doing my residency, I'd tell my wife, like, man, when I'm on call at night, I don't know if it's the stress of being on call, not sleeping, you get like 3 hours sleep or 2 hours, whatever, all night for 2 or 3 days in a row. And then all of a sudden I'd be starving the next day. Man, like you have no satiety signals. You just don't, your brain doesn't shut down. And now we have data showing that that's true. All the stress hormones and lack of sleep and all this recovery that we don't get. So that's one thing, people get your sleep. That's a really, really important thing. And a lot of us have had to trade off sleep for exercise. If we want to get our exercise in, we have to wake up a few hours earlier. And I've realized get your sleep when you can.
Yeah, I think it's not really my area of expertise, but people that I trust who know more than I do, they would say between the two, sleep and exercise, prioritize sleep. Like if your sleep has been poor, don't force yourself to exercise. Your body's just not in a good state to do that. But I think people have to do whatever makes them feel best. But I guess I just like the idea of like I'm so tired, I shouldn't work out today.
Exactly right, because we could put it that way. I gotta sleep, but it's hard because a lot of us, I see it a lot that it's juggling life, and for me, I observe it from day one here in my new practice was it's the middle-aged, real estate agent who's stressed, running around. She's got two kids with troubles, and she like during our meetings, she's texting people and calling, and like never shuts down. And they're the ones who struggle the most by far. There's no doubt in my mind about it, but sometimes they go on a little vacation, they get away for a little while, and they turn everything around. It's amazing the effect of just being run down. Plus, obviously, we all went through COVID, this whole thing, and our whole lives got thrown upside down. We didn't have anything to look forward to for a while, like no vacations, no going to see old friends, and all those kind of things. That took a toll.
Yeah. Yeah, I really think we neglect this in the keto and low carb world. We really do. I think there's so much emphasis on physique, on fat loss and muscles and like, reversing diabetes, which that's all well and good, and I think we focus on what I would say mental health. Like there is a lot more talk now about diet and depression, anxiety, mood stability, but I feel like emotional health, we don't talk about enough. And I kind of separate that from mental health, emotional, more like you were saying, the family support, activities we enjoy. There's just not, I really don't care if your A1C is 4.9 if you haven't smiled in 2 months. If you haven't enjoyed yourself in a year. Like I really don't care about your six-pack abs if you're miserable every day. And I feel we don't really talk about that a lot.
Yeah, it's true. And that's the trade-off. You could get and we see it. I see people are militant and they're like, my A1C is 5.1. I want it below 5. It's like, at what cost and why? You're healthy. Your insulin looks good. Everything looks great.
Yeah.
Relax a little bit. So some people, it's hard for them to kind of just ease off the gas a little bit and enjoy life. That's
Yeah.
very true.
Yeah.
So we get so infatuated whether our meat is 100% grass fed or not, or whatever it is. We get so caught up that you just say, like, kind of like we were saying, just forget it. If I can't get six-pack abs, I'm not going to work out. But really, I think it's really some of the docs, the people that were at Utah, we were talking, and it's really interesting how important just functional abilities, be able to get up off the ground and move and not fall, and being able to be independent. And your book, The Alzheimer's Antidote, too, talking about, gosh, what can we do to prevent the progression? What can we do to prevent it from happening? And taking lifestyle into account.
Yeah. I hope, I'm sorry, they're mowing the lawn outside my apartment. I
Oh,
don't
I
know
don't
if
hear it
it's
at all. No problem.
good. Okay,
You're
because
good. This is
Um,
part of the show. We like to have the background noises too,
it's
the
real
fire
life.
trucks
It's
and
real life.
whatever.
I
Yeah, it's
live
real
in a
life.
place where they're mowing the lawn. There was something I was going to say about, oh, right, what you're saying about just all this other stuff of life's best medicine, like diet's a huge part of that, but it's not the only aspect of life. And you, because of the way that your practice is and my nutrition business too, I think we get, have you ever heard that phrase, the worried well?
Yeah.
So I get a lot of worried well, meaning people that are very, very healthy, but they're worried that they're not healthy enough, or they're at the 98th percentile of health and wellness, but they want to be at 101. And sometimes I have to ask these people, well, I just want to optimize, optimize for what? For how? Like what? How will you know when you're optimal? What, define that for me? Like, what exactly are you trying to achieve? And very often I have to kind of tell people, I think you're already there. Like, there's nowhere else to go here. Just keep doing what you're doing. Or it's interesting because, like, there's so many people who don't care about their health at all. Like, they're just eating any old thing, doing any old thing. And then there's people that care too much, and it's working against that mental and emotional health. So you kind of want to be a little bit, not exactly in the middle, like care more than you don't care, but don't care so much that it detracts from the rest of your life. And I just, it's I feel like sometimes the people who come to me just need to hear somebody say that. They almost need permission to loosen up a little bit, you know?
It's funny. I have those conversations all the time. I'll see people and I'm looking at their numbers. I was like, you are so fit and active. You work out at such a high level. You're cutting your carbs to zero. Look, your LDL is going through the roof. You got all these problems. Relax a little bit. Take it, take the foot off the gas a little bit and kind of enjoy. You've worked hard to get where you're at. So liberalize a little. And then I see all their numbers normalize. They just have to, because some people think they have to do CrossFit 6 hours a day and they're doing all this stuff and they're beating up their body and they're in pain all the time. And there's, you're right. That's a huge, huge, huge point, is that you could be type A plus and be so worried. And also that's the other thing I noticed, that the people who weigh themselves 10 times a day, and they're like every few minutes, you get so obsessed with it that it's self-defeating. You spike all your stress hormones. So finding your peace, right?
Yeah, it's I used to listen, I haven't followed him in a long time, but Chris Kresser, who's, I think he's an acupuncturist, but very well known in the, like, functional medicine type
Mm-hmm.
world. And he once told a story about a client that, like, was doing everything right. Everything is like on point, locked down. But they had a lot of issues. And his prescription, he was like, here's what I want you to do. On Friday night, I want you to go out with your friends for some pizza and beer. Like, I want you to loosen up a bit, dude. Like, and just that's, I think, I'm not saying, look, if you're deathly allergic to gluten or something, don't do that. But that's, we have like blinders on to everything but the diet, you know?
I think that's a huge point. It's a hard line, because I have some people, I'm like, give yourself grace if you go and screw up, whatever. But some people blow it all the time and they never get on track. And other people are so strict that, that's, two of my favorite patients, actually, they came in together. They came from Northern California down to see me. And one was saying, hey, look, doc, and one was hardcore, like, I'm doing this, like, no breaks, no nothing. We're going straight in. And the other one said, hey, look, doc, I like to have sourdough bread every once in a while. Is that a deal breaker? And I'm like, and then she's, I like to have a glass of wine every once in a while. I go, okay, this is your first visit with me and you're talking about cheating already, basically. And she goes, well, I know myself. And I've done like Whole30. I've done all these things where I go 30 days and I can eat glass if you want me to. On day 31, I'm binging and eating crappy stuff and I fall off the weight. She's crushed it. She's been, because now she doesn't need the sourdough bread, but it was there in case she wanted it. And she goes, I'm not going to be so restrictive that I lose my mind. It's like the kids who are, the parents are so strict, they go off to college and they're partying every night and getting into trouble, right? Because there's a reaction to that at some point. And her friend that was really hardcore struggled the whole time. And now just recently we saw her and she's killing it. She said, I realized I have to give myself a little break and not be so hardcore about it. Like what you're saying is not be so fanatical about everything. Like how many calories in a broccoli, right? You know what I mean? You get so overwhelmed and then they eat cookies the next week, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's, like you said, people have to know themselves, and there's certain things, whether it's an occasional glass of wine or bread or something, if having that thing once in a while helps you stick to the plan all the rest of the time, that gets most people pretty far. Like not everybody needs to be ultra strict all the time. I just think, you know, we all the health problems that everybody has now didn't come from the occasion, from the one piece of birthday cake or the wedding cake or the once a month you go to your favorite restaurant and you get the rice and beans instead, you know, you get the tortillas, whatever. Like it's that we eat like it's a free-for-all buffet every single day.
Mhm.
And I think I just think, you know, some people have to be strict all the time and they enjoy it. They thrive that way. But I think there's other people who, again, once a month, once a week even, will have something. And as long as they're happy with the results they're getting, keep doing it. You know, it's there's no rule.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. I've seen people that, you know, they say, you know what, yesterday I had sourdough bread. I had a sandwich on sourdough bread. And I go, are you cool with, you know, if your weight's not as down as much this week? Because she goes, it was worth it, no biggie, right? But you can't do that all the time, then be upset you're not seeing the results too. So it kind of, it's one of those things where you have to figure out, okay, how strict do I have to be and how much can I give myself some lax time too?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, in my book, The Stall Slayer, we're running a course now about it. I had to make that exact point. You know, you can't say that you're stalled and weight loss, or don't say it's not working when you're not actually doing it, when you're not actually following the plan. Like a food list is only good if you actually follow it. You can stick it on your fridge with a magnet. That it doesn't work by osmosis. You actually have to do it. So, you know, it's like, well, it's not working. Well, is it really not working, or are you know, twice a week, are you having XYZ foods that are obviously getting in the way? So, but this, you know, again, this is all human nature. And I think we need to start talking, not we, you and I, but we as a community, like need to start talking more about the fact that this is hard for some people. You know, some people get a food list or they get a program and they just sail through and they never look back. And a lot of us, there's addiction, there's, you know, trauma in the past. I know Tro talks a lot about that. Like there's other, you know, we eat for like it's all well and good that keto controls appetite for so many people and it curbs hunger. What about the millions of people among us, and us, me included, who eat for 87 reasons besides hunger? It doesn't matter that keto takes away my hunger if I eat when I'm bored or tired or procrastinating, or, you know. So I just, you know, what people see on social media is the highlight reel, right? They see everyone who's doing great. Nobody's going to post, I regained 10 pounds, or like, I'm really struggling. I want people to know that if they're trying to do this and it's hard, you're not the only one. It's, you know, it is hard for some people.
Yeah, I think that's a point of community. You know, we do Zoom meetings with my patients, and it's so great because people will help each other go, hey, I was struggling here. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I used to snack when I got home before work. Now I go for a walk around the block or whatever. And so I think, you know, hearing all these things and realizing you're not alone, I think that's the hard part is you think I'm the only one sacrificing. No one else in the world is except me, you know, and then you start realizing there's a lot of people working hard. And really and I think that's been the problem in medicine. Most of the docs out there have been thin their whole life and never had struggles. So they go, just do what I did. It works, right? Because when you're metabolically healthy, you can get away with everything, you know? So, you know, just figuring out if you're really sick, how do we reverse the ship and get us back into a better
Yeah,
situation, you know,
yeah.
where you can get away with more stuff down the road. And I think that's a big point. If you're 400 pounds and diabetic and your sugars are 300, you have no laxity to cheat at that point. But if you're, you know, a triathlete and you're fit and you want to have a cookie every once in a while, okay, it's not going to affect your health in that to that degree, right?
Right.
But also there's a lot of, I see it, like really athletic people who eat just garbage food the whole time and their body's just not fueling right, and they're, metabolically sick even though they look really healthy. This TOFI type person.
Yeah, I mean, look at Tim Noakes, right? He was basically like a professional caliber athlete who became either pre-diabetic or he had type 2 diabetes. And I mean, there's a lot younger people too, younger athletes. Now, I also, though, I think it's Jeff Volek who says about 1/3 of the population can eat anything and they'll be fine, they'll be thin, they'll be healthy like that. But the rest of us, not so much. But there are those outliers who, no matter what they do, they're never going to become obese or sick. It just,
Yeah, it's just the way they are. It's just the way it is, right? And it's not fair. And you go, okay, but it's just like in sports, some people have to work harder because you don't have the natural talent, so you have to work harder to hone those skills. And other people just naturally are, LeBron James of the world, who are naturally good. They have to work hard still, but they're just naturally going to be, better athletes and metabolically healthier than most people out there.
Yeah, I mean, I can, in a former life, I ran 2 marathons and I was slow as a turtle. And I crossed the finish line, but it took me many, many hours. And I can always get faster than I am, right? I can keep training and keep running and get faster, but I'm never gonna be FloJo. Remember her from like Angels of Florence Griffith Joyner or Jackie Joyner Kersee, Carl Lewis. I'm never gonna be an Olympic caliber runner, sprinter. It ain't gonna happen, but I can get better than I am now. And I think people I wonder if sometimes people put too much faith in keto, or their expectations are a little too high. Like I don't know who said this, but it was so brilliant. Keto can get you as lean as you can be, but that might not be as lean as you want to be. So keto might get you here. And if you want to get here, you're going to have to do something else, like something, whatever, fasting or a training, you're going to pull out some more stops. And I wonder, like in my Stall Slayer book, I have a whole chapter on setting realistic expectations. Are you setting yourself up for failure by even trying to be a size 2 or a 31-inch waist or whatever? Like, is that even achievable for you? Or are you going to have to sort of be content somewhere shy of that?
Yeah, I think if you're feeling better and your skin clears up and all these other things, these other factors besides just the scale, it has to be, mental health or you're sleeping better. I have so many people that get so many benefits outside of weight loss, right? But just being able to get up off the ground, or their back doesn't hurt every time they get out of the chair, inflammation going down. There's a lot of stuff that it's like an intangible, but it's critical. Like people realize, hey, my knees don't bother me anymore. I used to always limp around, and now that I just get up and do stuff, or be able to get up off the floor when you couldn't a year ago, or whatever it is. And I think counting those small victories instead of looking at that you get to the top of the mountain and go, okay, I'm at the top of the mountain, now what? But sometimes you say, hey, let's look back and see how far you came on this journey, right?
Yeah.
And so people don't see it. And that, Evelyn, just recently, we were talking last week, and she kept thinking, gosh, I'm not losing fast enough. Everyone else loses weight faster than me. And then she was at a funeral and no one recognized her. Right. They were like, no one was talking to her. She thought everyone was mad at her. And then finally someone said, oh my gosh, I didn't recognize you. Holy cow.
Wow.
But she said it was almost offensive because all they talked about was they're like, you lost so much weight. And it was like, not how are you? How's life? It was just all about the focus on the weight and the weight change, and go, you used to look terrible. Look how good you look. It's like, well, thanks. It's almost offensive sometimes.
We live in such a weight-centric society. And I've come to be very careful about commenting on bodies because in the world that we live in, most people want to lose weight. They're trying to become smaller, but there's people who lose weight because they have cancer or because there's some other sickness. And maybe you don't want to say, oh, you look so great, you've lost so much weight. Like it's, you kind of have to be careful. It's almost like, how they say never congratulate a woman on her pregnancy or ask when she's due unless you literally see the baby crowning. She can never guess, never assume that a woman is pregnant, no matter.
I've seen that. How far along are you? I'm not pregnant.
Exactly.
Horrible.
And so never go that route unless you literally see her giving birth. Never assume somebody's pregnant. And so I feel like if somebody's lost weight, maybe unless you know they were deliberately trying to, it's just best to not comment on weight. It's such a minefield.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And Amy, how do you find your peace? Like when you're going through the hard times, where do you find your peace? What brings you, what grounds you, what gives you your self-worth? Because
I
I know, I mean, like you said, some of us are just wired, like I'm more upbeat and positive on stuff and go, oh, it'll work out. But when you have that wiring of being the Eeyore type, right? When you are melancholy and all that, and you're like, okay, when things aren't going great, how do I ground myself? What keeps you going to accomplish all? I mean, really, you've accomplished a ton in life, and I know you don't see it as much as the rest of us, but I'll just tell you, when I see you get up and speak, I go, every time you're awesome and
thank
amazing, and
you.
people are inspired. I was like, how do you not, like, that not be your, like, excitement in life, you know?
Yeah, thank you. That's actually part of it, knowing that the tiny part of my brain that is logical and rational, even in the midst of depression, knowing that other people don't see me the way I see myself helps a little bit, because regardless of how I feel, there is something valuable in my work. People are being helped by it. It's doing something meaningful in the world. I also get really grateful in where I live right now. I don't have many friends in my local area, but I have friends. They're just scattered elsewhere. And so just even getting a text message or sending a text message it helps remind me that I'm not alone. There are people who love me, and people that I can express love to. And that's huge, that connection. I'll tell you a quick story of something that just happened to me this past Saturday. I'm part of kind of a keto Meals on Wheels type thing. We deliver keto food to people on Saturday mornings. And there's this one lady who I've been delivering to for over a year, but I only see her once a week. And, it's just a quick chat. How you doing? How's your blood sugar and all that? And she's so nice, and just something about her energy always makes me feel good just chatting with her. And this Saturday, I finally worked up the courage to tell her, I have depression, and I just want you to know that I really enjoy talking to you. Like this, it's a highlight of my day. I look forward to coming here. And we hugged. That hug was the best thing to happen to me all week. And after that interaction, I was on such a high. Now, it didn't, maybe for only an hour or so, it didn't last, but I came away from that with such joy. And I'm so, because I've been wanting to say that to her for months. And it's like a little bit awkward. Like, how do I tell this to this person? But I'm so glad I did, because I probably made her day too, not just mine. And so I really think it's the little, I could say, well, I read books, or I go for lots of walks, but I think that connection to me is really what helps a lot. And I buy myself flowers sometimes for, $8 from the grocery store. So like little things. I don't think when you have depression, you can't do something huge that's going to change your life. So I think on a day-to-day basis, it's those little things that help me.
Yeah, like that human connection. I was just thinking about that. It's like, what award would you really care about? Like, you know, like think about like your books that you've written, right? When you're writing it, it's such an effort. Like giving a talk, it's such an effort. You got to do all the research and go through all the stuff, and then you go give the talk, and then that's when you're really impacting people. But all the work that goes into it, people don't realize. Like I know, have friends who've written books, and it's a nightmare. Like editing and pictures and doing all this stuff. But what keeps you going through that process of saying, okay, it's going to help humanity. I'm going to do good in the world.
Yeah, that is what keeps me going, knowing that somebody somewhere is going to benefit from it. And it's funny, like people say that, public speaking is one of the greatest fears out there, right? I like giving talks. I love giving talks. I hate making the slides.
Yeah, me
I
too. I'm
hate,
with you.
like you were saying, the preparation is so, just put me on stage and let me talk. But even the writing, at least, It's a mixed bag. Like when I'm actually in the writing process, it can be hard, it can be a slog, but there's part of me that really does enjoy it. My undergraduate degree is actually in creative writing. So I feel like I've been a writer long before I got into nutrition. So there is something pleasurable about the act of writing, but also knowing that like what I've always loved and what I try to do is explain complex scientific stuff in plain English. Like, okay, here's insulin and glucagon and blah, 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 what does that actually mean for me? Like when I'm buying food at the store, what does any of this mean? And, or like to explain to people, here's why you have gout and it's coming from insulin. Here's why you have PCOS from insulin. And like, here's the very simple thing you can do to start fixing this. I guess I enjoy that education aspect of it. But it's hard to say how it keeps me going. I guess just knowing, like you said, the process is not always great, but the end result of like when I get to be like, here's my book, that's the payoff, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's kind of what we do. You see someone comes to you and they're a total disaster, and you go, okay, I can see the end product. Right now, it's a lump of clay that we got to work with, and then all of a sudden you see that they turn into a vase, or they turn whatever they're gonna, whatever they're supposed to be. They can get closer to that at least. Maybe not perfect work of art like Da Vinci or something, but it's kind of like it's just seeing that potential, I think, in people, and I think in what you're doing, you say, let me give you the tools and make it simplified so that you can understand it. Because I get it. Like, some of the low carb meetings I'm thinking, if I was just a layperson, I would have no clue what these people, the scientists, are talking about. They get so much into the science, like, okay, how does that apply to when I go to the grocery store, right? I mean, it's so it's such a difficult, balancing it out for all of us.
Yeah.
That's why I love you. Make it simple and go, hey, let's end your carb confusion. It's like great, because like there's so much information out there that one person, you can never eat this, you can never do this, and it's like, oh my gosh, people don't know what to do. But I think like you said, just making little changes here and there and start going after it.
Yeah, I have kind of a weird analogy, but maybe not that weird at all. Like we try to keep this simple. Like, you don't have to radically overhaul your entire life to start getting some of these huge benefits. And the other day, my my bathroom sink was kind of clogged, and it's not like with the house I grew up in, you could just pull the stopper out and kind of clear the drain. This one, it's like attached from the bottom and it's all this stuff, and I don't know anything about plumbing, so I'm not about to mess with it. But I looked at it, and because I could put in a work order for my, the maintenance people to come and do it, but it's been a few days, and I'm like, oh. And I kind of looked, and I could see that there was a lot of gunk in the drain and hair and whatever. And I'm like, maybe I could do something about this myself. And I took a hanger, a wire hanger, and just kind of got the stuff out. It was gross, but I got it out. And sure enough, the drain is totally clear now.
Yeah.
And like all I had to do was be like, all right, what's the problem here? And just take care of it. It took 30 seconds maybe, and everything's fine now. And like, I just think people are trying to pull so many levers, like, because even we talked about sleep and stress and all that here, but keto alone is really powerful. So everybody out there, like, you don't have to address 47 things right now all at once. Start with one. Say, you know what? Life is crazy right now. I'm stressed out. I'm not sleeping. I don't have time to work out. Just focus on the food. Do that for a while, because that alone is going to go pretty far. Then some other time when it's a little easier, tackle the second thing, tackle the third thing. But like, because I see this too, people, writing to me, and I always joke, but it's not really a joke. I can feel their anxiety radiating out of the emails at me, trying to do, well, I do intermittent fasting and I do this and I follow this protocol and I eat this many vegetables.
Yeah, so complicated.
Yeah.
Relax, take a breath, right?
Yeah.
Take a breath, relax a little bit. And you made a good point earlier too, and I wanted to just comment on that, is when everyone shows their glory stories on social media, it's like, you see all these couples and you see like, oh my gosh, they're on vacation every day, look at how great their life is, and they're getting divorced. You're like, wait a minute, I thought everything was great. Well, they're not going to put all the garbage stuff on there, and it's the same thing for low carb and all that. People aren't going to post their losses. Some people really do a great job of that, saying, hey, I'm struggling right now, I was doing great, then now I'm off course, well, how do I get back on? And they'll ask for help, or they'll reach out and just try to get back. And not everyone's perfect at these things, even if you have some success.
Yeah.
So Amy, I don't want to keep you all day. I have to ask you, what's life's best medicine for you? When you sit back and go, here's what really matters in life, like if you're going to tell your friends or other people, like what's life's best medicine for you?
That's a good question. I think, it's funny. It's funny that this is about to be my answer, because I am an introvert, like off the chart. Like I broke the introversion scale. I need a lot of quiet time by myself, but there comes a point where it's too much, and I need to be with people. I need to talk. I need to hold somebody's hand. Like I think we take for granted the importance of physical contact, and not just sexual contact, although for adults that's important. Just hugging, holding hands, touching somebody on the arm, like, and that, take it from somebody who doesn't get a lot of that these days. That's huge. I think that's why that hug with that lady the other day meant so much to me. I think just maybe that, and maybe it's vague, but that human connection, physically and emotionally, that's because we can't do this alone. This being we can't do life alone. We need other people. And I think just having, it's almost a miracle that any of us has any friends, let alone finds a spouse, finds a partner, because there's 7 billion people in the world. It's a miracle that we find anybody that we connect with. So it's a blessing to have friends and family, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a huge deal. I think a lot of us have forgotten about that. I think we appreciate it a lot more than we used to. You just kind of thought it would be there all the time, but then, just it really impacted me. I had just doing Zoom meetings like this with some of my seniors that are in a senior facility, and like one of my ladies, we were talking, and she started crying. I said, "What's wrong?" She goes, "You're the first face I've seen in like 8 weeks or something. Like I haven't seen anyone's face. Everyone's wearing a mask. No one smiles at me, and I haven't seen a smile." And it's like, wow, you don't realize how big of an impact that is. If you're by yourself, in solitary confinement, and you just don't have an engagement with people, it's like, wow, that is really, really something. But just like that lady, you give a hug to her, and she feels good about it. It's that human connection, and that, and that's what you're doing. I mean, these books that you've written, I know so many people are getting benefit from them, and you're changing lives and doing that. So it's like, fighting through your stuff to help other people. That's a huge deal. So Amy, how do people contact you, get in touch with you, find your books, all that kind of stuff? And if you send me an email, we can like put a link to everything there.
Yeah, I'll send you some links. My website is very, very out of date. It's in desperate need of overhaul. If anyone out there is tech savvy, so my website is tuitnutrition.com, TUIT, Tuit Nutrition. That's my handle on Twitter, Tuit Nutrition, and that's the name of my YouTube channel. So people can contact me any of those ways. And I have books, look for me on Amazon. There's the Alzheimer's Antidote, the Stall Slayer, and End Your Carb Confusion with Dr. Westman. And I now help Dr. Westman's company, Adapt Your Life. We do online courses about keto. We have a course coming up about cholesterol. So that's the website is very long. It's adaptyourlifeacademy.com, adaptyourlifeacademy.com, and good online courses there.
All right. Amy, thanks so much for joining me. It's always good to see you. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for keeping me in line, keeping me, educated and all this kind of stuff. So
well, thank you for all the positive energy you put out. Twitter, and it can be ugly, and you've only ever been positive and encouraging and uplifting to people. So thank you.
I try. I get carried away sometimes, but I'm trying to be good. So, hey, everyone, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, give someone a hug, be kind to someone. This is important stuff. So you have an expert in the field that we dragged on today. So enjoy your life, look at the good stuff, focus on the positive, and keep going one step at a time. Thanks, Amy.
Thank you.
thank you for listening to this episode. We greatly appreciate your support. We would greatly appreciate a positive thumbs up on all of the platforms like iTunes and Spotify or wherever you're listening. And we just thank you for our Patreon supporters. We greatly appreciate your help in getting this message out. We think there's a lot of important information, and hopefully this helps you. Have a great day, and thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.